Conservation of plants and animals. Lesson preview. Importance of biodiversity. Threats to biodiversity. Conservation of forest and wildlife. Biosphere reserve. Flora and fauna. Wildlife sanctuary. National park. Threatened species. Migration. Red data book. Recycling of paper. Some conservation programs. A large variety of plants and animals exists on our planet. They are essential for our survival. Ecosystem refers to the number and variety of plants, animals and other organisms, their interrelationships, and their relation with the environment that exists. The variety of plant and animal life in the world or in a particular habitat is called biodiversity. Every component of an ecosystem serves an important function in nature. Plants found in an ecosystem form the flora, while animals form the fauna. Some of these species of plants as well as animals have become extinct or are on the verge of becoming extinct. One of the most serious environmental problems faced by us is the loss of biodiversity. There are a number of causes for this. India is one of the most biodiverse regions of the world. It has a variety of ecosystems ranging from alpine vegetation to tropical rainforests and from temperate forests to coastal wetlands. A rich biodiversity of both flora and fauna exists in these ecosystems. Importance of biodiversity. Living organisms in an ecosystem depend on one another for survival. Every organism is linked to many other organisms through the food webs. Animals depend on plants for food and shelter. Plants depend on animals for pollination, reproduction, and seed dispersal. Fungi and bacteria decompose other organisms to add nutrients to soil, and plants depend on these nutrients to grow. In this way, an ecosystem is a perfectly balanced system in which each organism has an important role to play. Loss of even a few organisms harms the ecosystem. Hence, biodiversity is important to sustain an ecosystem. It provides a wide range of materials and food for survival, prevents extinction of species, and allows organisms to adapt to changes in environment. The flora and fauna of a country are very important to renewable natural resources. The proper management of forests and wildlife resources is hence an important task. Today, about 1/5 of the area of our country is under forest cover. The importance and uses of forests have already been discussed in the previous class. Threats to biodiversity. 1. Deforestation and loss of habitat. 2. Wildlife trade. 3. Pollution and climate change. 4. Introduction of new species. 1. Deforestation and loss of habitat. One of the major threats to the survival of organisms is deforestation. You have already studied that deforestation is the large-scale cutting of trees and clearing of forests. The reasons of deforestation are increased requirement of land for agriculture, for construction of roads, houses, factories, and dams. This is happening because of increase in population. Increased requirement of wood for making furniture, in construction, in making paper, etc. Wood is also being used as a fuel. Overgrazing by cattle. Increased mining activity. Some natural causes of deforestation include forest fires and lowering of water table caused due to droughts. Consequences of deforestation. Deforestation has many adverse effects which include increased air and soil pollution, increase in temperature. Trees take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen during the process of photosynthesis. Deforestation leads to increase in carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, which may lead to global warming. Lesser rainfall leads to low groundwater level. Trees release water vapor during the process of transpiration. Destroying of trees. will lead to lower amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. This makes the atmosphere drier and leads to reduced rainfall. Increased chances of natural calamities such as floods and droughts. Trees help to absorb rainwater from the ground. Excess water would cause floods due to soil erosion. Increase in temperature due to felling of trees will disturb the water cycle and lead to less rainfall, causing droughts. Trees and their roots bind the soil particles together. When deforestation takes place, the land becomes exposed, leaving it vulnerable to being washed by moving water or blown away by wind. Loss of topsoil reduces the fertility of the soil as it is rich in humus and nutrients. Removal of top layer of the soil exposes the lower hard and rocky layers, and over a period of time, the fertile soil gets converted into a desert. This is called desertification. It leads to reduction in the binding capacity of the soil particles. Landslides are a consequence of this reduction in binding capacity. Soil texture and nutrient content are adversely affected. Cutting down trees destroys homes of many species of arboreal animals. Many species of animals and plants are not able to adjust to the changing climate caused due to deforestation, resulting in their extinction. 2. Wildlife trade. Biodiversity is threatened by trade in exotic birds and animals. Tigers are killed for their skin, bones, and claws. Elephants are killed for their tusks, bears for fur, and rhinos for horns. These animal parts fetch high prices. 3. Pollution and climate change. Human activities have caused pollution of air, water, and land. This has led to extermination of many animal species living in water bodies, air, and soil. Global warming is affecting regular climatic patterns, and will melt polar ice caps and result in the rise of sea levels. This will destroy coastal ecosystems. 4. Introduction of new species. Often, a new species introduced in an ecosystem by humans disturbs the ecological balance of the region. It may upset existing food chains, resulting in the extinction of certain species. Conservation of forest and wildlife. We need to conserve forests and wildlife as they are valuable natural resources. The preservation and careful management of plant and animal species is called conservation. Our life depends on forests in several ways. It is a sad story that even protected forests in wildlife sanctuaries are not safe as people living in neighboring villages encroach upon them and destroy them. Reforestation. Reforestation means restocking of the destroyed forests by planting new trees. The trees planted should be, as far as possible, of the same species as found in that forest. Reforestation can also take place naturally if the deforested area is left undisturbed, giving it time to redevelop itself. Biosphere. Biosphere is that part of the earth in which living organisms exist or which supports life. Several steps have been taken by the government to preserve biodiversity. Various protected areas have been established to protect the flora and fauna and their natural habitats. These protected areas are called sanctuaries, national parks, and biosphere reserves. In our country, they were established under the Wildlife Protection Act, 1972. These protected sites are natural areas that allow native organisms to flourish. All kinds of human intervention leading to the destruction of habitats are removed from such areas. The government has laid down strict rules and policies which are implemented in these areas. Hence, cultivation, grazing, felling of trees, hunting, and poaching are strictly prohibited in these areas. Biosphere Reserve. Biosphere Reserve is an area meant for conservation of biodiversity. It is a large area of protected land developed to conserve wildlife, plant and forest resources, and traditional life of the tribals living in the area. The Indian government has established the following 18 biosphere reserves in the country. 1. Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. 2. Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve. 3. Gulf of Mannar. 4. Nokrek National Park. 5. Sundarbans. 6. Manas Biosphere Reserve. 7. Simlipal Tiger Reserve. 8. Dihang Dibang Biosphere Reserve. 9. Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve. 10. Achanakamar Amarkantak Biosphere Reserve. 11. Great Run of Kutch. 12. Cold Desert. 13. Kehangachengajonga Biosphere Reserve. 14. Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve. 15. Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserve. 16. Dibra Sekhova Biosphere Reserve. 17. Seshachalam Hills. 18. Panna Tiger. A biosphere reserve may contain other protected areas in it. For example, Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve consists of one national park, named Satpura, and two wildlife sanctuaries named Bori and Pachmadi. Satpura Tiger Reserve was developed to ensure survival and maintenance of tiger population in our country. Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve entrance. Flora and fauna. The large number of plants living in a particular area are called the flora of that place. The large number of animals living in a particular area are called the fauna of that place. Examples: the flora of Pachmadi are sal, teak, mango, jamun, silver ferns, arjun, etc. Sal, jamun, silver ferns, arjun. The fauna includes chinkara, blue bull, Nilgai, cheetal, wild dog, barking deer, leopard, etc. Chinkara, cheetal, wild dog, blue bull. Endemic species. A species is a group of living organisms having common characteristics like similar body parts and functions, same eating habits, and the same habitat. They interbreed and reproduce fertile offspring only with members of their own species, and not with other species. Plant and animal species confined to a particular geographical area are called endemic species. They are not naturally found anywhere else. Examples: giant panda is endemic to the mountains of Sichuan, Gansu, and Shanxi provinces of China. Asiatic lion is endemic to Gir National Park in Gujarat. The endemic flora of Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve are sal, wild, mango, and endemic fauna include bison, Indian giant squirrel, and flying squirrel. Giant panda, Asiatic lion, wild mango, giant squirrel, flying squirrel. Wildlife sanctuary. Wildlife sanctuaries are protected areas set up to prevent extinction of animals. They provide protection and natural living conditions to wild animals. Killing or capturing of animals is strictly prohibited in these areas. There are 553 wildlife sanctuaries in the country as of December 2020. Indian wildlife sanctuaries include broadleaved forests, mountain forests, and bushlands in the deltas of big rivers like Ganga. Some wildlife sanctuaries have been specifically named as bird sanctuaries. Some famous wildlife sanctuaries in India are Gir in Gujarat, Asiatic lion, Sambhar, Chital, Nandankanan in Odisha, Indian crocodile, white tiger, Sariskai in Rajasthan, tiger, Periyar in Kerala, Asian elephant. National Chambal Sanctuary in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, Gharial. Some endangered species of wild animals like black buck, white-eyed buck, elephant, golden cat, pin-headed duck, gharial, lion, tiger, rhinoceros, etc. are protected and preserved in our wildlife sanctuaries. National Park. National parks are special reserved areas where wild animals can freely move about in their natural habitat. The wild animals, natural vegetation, and landscapes are together preserved in a national park. There are 106 national parks in the country, as of December 2020. Some famous national parks in India are Corbett National Park in Uttarakhand. This was the first national park set up in India. Ranthambore National Park in Rajasthan. Kanha National Park in Madhya Pradesh. Bandhavgarh National Park in Madhya Pradesh. Kaziranga National Park in Assam. Threatened species. Species that are at a high risk of getting extinct are called endangered species. Examples: Indian rhinoceros, Asiatic lion, crocodile, blue whale, etc. Species which are likely to become endangered due to destruction of forest, overexploitation, and other environmental disturbances are called vulnerable species. Examples: one-horned rhinoceros, chinkara, golden langur, etc. Asiatic lion, one-horned rhinoceros, chinkara, golden langur. Endangered and vulnerable species together are known as threatened species. The following steps need to be taken to conserve wildlife. Habitat preservation. Preservation of habitat of wild animals helps in their conservation. Preventing deforestation is an important method of preserving habitat. Forests provide shelter and food for wildlife. Hunting regulations. Hunting is one of the causes for the extinction of creatures, such as flightless bird dodo in the island of Mauritius. Therefore, effective implementation of government regulations controlling hunting activities is very important for wildlife conservation. Hunting of endangered species is completely banned. Illegal hunting of animals, also called poaching, is a punishable offense. Creating protected areas, development of biosphere reserves, national parks, and wildlife sanctuaries is important for wildlife conservation. Migration. Migration is a pattern of behavior in which animals travel from one habitat to another in search of food, better conditions, or reproductive needs. There are two important factors that make migration different from other types of animal movement. First, migration happens seasonally, and second, migration involves a return journey. Birds fly, covering a long distance, to warmer places to lay eggs. Common migratory animals are whales, fish, turtles, and birds. Red Data Book. Red Data Book is a book published by International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, IUCN, which keeps a record of all the endangered and rare animals and plants. There are different red data books for plants, animals, and other organisms. It helps us in providing complete information for research, studies, and also for monitoring the programs on rare and endangered species and their habitats. The main purpose of creating this book is to identify and protect those species which are on the verge of extinction. Recycling of paper. Do you know paper is the most thrown away material? Paper, as you know, is made from trees. It takes 17 full-grown trees to make a ton of paper. We can recycle paper 5 to 7 times. We should use paper with care. This will help us in saving many trees in a year. This way, the amount of harmful chemicals used in paper making will also be reduced. The demand of recycled paper is increasing these days as people have started realizing its importance. Some conservation programs. In India, some non-government organizations, NGOs, also work with the government for conserving the environment. Some NGOs help in spreading awareness amongst people, whereas some work towards the implementation of rules set up by the government. Some famous conservation programs include Project Tiger. Project Tiger was initiated in 1973 to protect the Royal Bengal tiger. It is one of the largest conservation programs. The population of tigers in India is slowly increasing due to this project. Van Mahotsav. It is celebrated in the first week of July all over the country. It was started by the government to revive lost forest cover. During this week, lakhs of plants are planted. Chipko movement. The Chipko movement or Chipko Andolan was a forest conservation movement in India. It began in 1973 in Uttarakhand. It inspired people to embrace trees and stop their